Hello everybody. Today in English we're going to look at when you should not use an apostrophe. So last week we looked at using apostrophes to show possession, and that means to show that something belongs to something else. We also had a little bit of a recap on using apostrophes for contraction. And when we use an apostrophe for contractions, it means that we are shortening two words into one. So for example, I have becomes I've, and we have to insert that apostrophe where the missing letters would have been. So that would be between the I and the V. So let's have a little look at some examples. I'd like you to read through these sentences and see if you can spot the mistakes yourself. So I'm just going to give you a minute to do that. Okay, so let's go through each sentence one at a time. In sentence A, it says, there are far too many cars on the road nowadays. Now, it's talking about cars, and it's just saying that there are a lot of cars. So we're writing the word cars as a plural, which means that there's more than one. So because of that, we do not need that apostrophe. The apostrophe is just there if the car owned something or something belonged to the car. Then looking at question B, it says we can't go in there. It might be dangerous. So in this example, the apostrophe is being used for a contraction. But is the apostrophe in the correct place? Remember, we add the apostrophe where the missing letters should be in the spelling. So can't is short for cannot. So in this case, the apostrophe wants to be between the N and the T because it's the O in not that is missing. The next one, my mum's birthday is next month. Now it's talking about singular mum. So that means that there's just one mum. And so when we are using the possessive apostrophe for just one, we put the apostrophe before the S. We put the apostrophe after the S if we're talking about lots of mums all at once. So that apostrophe is in the wrong place there. On D, the brush's bristles were wearing away. Now again, we're talking about one particular brush here and that its bristles are wearing away. So for that, the bristles do belong to the brushes, so we do want a possessive apostrophe, but we just need to be spelling that word differently because it should be brush apostrophe S. And then on question E, the frightened child cries on my shoulder. And that's the wrong spelling for cry, cries in this sentence. It should be spelled C-R-I-E-S. So let's see what they say. Next slide. There we are. So all of those were used incorrectly. So let's have a look at this next one. True or false? The apostrophe is being used correctly in the sentence below. So let's have a little read. Mum, please will you buy me some sweets? Asked the child. So in this example, there is an apostrophe in the word sweets. So that would suggest that the sweets own something or something belongs to the sweets. Is that the case in this sentence? No. Instead, they're actually talking about getting more than one sweet. So we've got a plural spelling. So because of that, we do not want that apostrophe in there at all. And you can see the little answer, it should just be written sweets. And it's really important that we remember this rule, that just because we know about the use of an apostrophe, it doesn't go on the end of every word that ends in an S. Right, okay, so the apostrophes in the words below have been used incorrectly. Rewrite the words correctly. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of time to have a look at those and see if you can see where the mistakes have been made. Okay, so could have is short for could have. So where would the missing letters be in could have? They would not be between the V and the E. It's the H and the A from have that are missing. So the apostrophe should be after the D and before the V. The word theirs doesn't need an apostrophe at all. Okay, so this is a spelling of theirs, as in we're talking about a group of other people or another person, not the there as in THERE. Now then, Jenny's. For Jenny's, the apostrophe is at the very end, so that would suggest that there is more than one Jenny. But in this sentence, we're just talking about somebody named Jenny, so it's a singular possessive apostrophe, so that apostrophe goes before the S. And then for films, we're just talking about more than one films. I love watching films. So that's a plural spelling, and there is absolutely no need for an apostrophe at all. So can you see those spellings like we've just explained? Let's have another look at an example. Circle the apostrophes that have been used correctly in the sentence below. So the ones that have been used correctly. So the cake's halves are not equal. So you're getting more than me. Right, so where is the correct use of the apostrophe in there? The cake's halves are not equal. So what is the object that something belongs to in here? And it is the cake, isn't it? The halves of the cake. So the apostrophe is being used correctly for cakes. We don't need an apostrophe for halves because we're just talking about the fact that there is more than one half. It's a plural spelling. And if we have another look at the word your, has the apostrophe been used correctly in this contraction? Well, let's have a look. It's between the word you and before the letters RE. So your is short for you are. So the missing letter in this word is A. And so yes, that apostrophe is in the correct place. We had lots of playtime as a reward for our hard work. So an apostrophe was used here on lots. Is that correct? No, it isn't, because nothing belongs to lots. It's just meaning you've got a lot of time. So we don't even need that apostrophe in there at all. And you can see, look, it's picked up where we've just discussed. Right, underline the words where an apostrophe is used incorrectly in the sentences below. Why are you up so early these days? So, we've got wire, which is a shortening of the word YR. So, is the apostrophe in the correct place? Is it where there is a missing letter? Yes, it's replacing the A. Why are you up so early these days? Now, we're talking about the fact that somebody gets up really early, that wouldn't be Miss Kenny, on lots of different days. So the plural spelling here is days. And because it's just a plural spelling, lots of different days, we do not need that apostrophe. I shan't do it and you can't make me. Now, shan't is an interesting word because it's short for shall not. So we know that we've not got the two L's from shall and we've not got the O from not. So when we have a word like this, you always put the apostrophe on the last missing letter. So it shouldn't be where the L should be. It should be between the N and the T where the O has been omitted. That means left out. And you can't make me. Cannot. So that apostrophe is in the correct place between the N from can and the T from not. The children's singing was beautiful. Now, children is a plural spelling of child. So when a word's got its own special plural spelling, then this means we don't put the apostrophe after the S. We put the apostrophe before. So that's in the wrong place there because children is already a plural spelling. That's amazing, Ali's mum cried. Now in that, we have an apostrophe between the T and the S. And that is correct because it replaces the I from is. Now let's have a little look at Ali's mum cried. So there is one Ali, so it's a singular use of the apostrophe. And when we're only talking about one Ali or one object, the apostrophe goes before the S. There we are, look. It's just highlighting those. Right, so this one, rewrite these sentences and correct the apostrophe mistakes. My brother's worried about his competition as the other teams are very good and he'd like to win. So the apostrophes have been used incorrectly in here. So my brother's worried. Now we've got an apostrophe in that worried there, but it's not, nothing's belonging to the worries. It's the worries that belong to the brother. So here we don't want an apostrophe in worried, but we do want it in brothers. Now there's one brother, so we put the apostrophe before the S. So let's carry on. My brother's worried about his competition as the other teams. Now here it's just talking about more than one team. Nothing's belonging to these teams, so it's just a plural spelling and no apostrophe is needed. And he'd like, the other teams are very good and he'd like to win. So he'd is a shortening of he would. So the apostrophe doesn't want to go at the end of the word. Where do you think it should go? Yes, that's right. It goes between the E and the D. Let's just check those answers. My brother's worried about his competition as the other teams are very good and he'd like to win. Right, let's have another look at one. Dan is completing the following sentence. My mum collects something wherever she sees them. And Dan says, I need to write shells with an apostrophe to finish the sentence. Is he right? And explain your answer. So if she's collecting shells, does there need to be an apostrophe in shells? Does anything belong to the shells in this sentence? No, it doesn't. It's a plural spelling because she's collecting more than one shell. So there's no apostrophe needed. So Dan is incorrect because it should be shells without an apostrophe. Have the apostrophes been used correctly in the sentence below? Mia's rabbit's fur is very soft and fluffy, and I'll look after it when she's away. Now here, Mia is one person, so the apostrophe is in the wrong place. It needs to go before the S. And we're talking about her single rabbit, her one rabbit. So again, the apostrophe shouldn't be at the end of the word. It should be before the S. So Mia's rabbit's fur is very soft, and I'll, which is short for I will. So the apostrophe here is in the wrong place. It should go after the I and between the L, the first L. And I'll look after it while she's away. And she's is a contraction for she is. So the apostrophe is in the wrong place again there. It needs to go between the E and the S. And here we can see that that has been written correctly there. Mia's rabbits, I'll and she's. Now that we've had a little look at some examples, back on Purple Mash, there are some questions for you to have a go at and to complete. Good luck, and always just think about the rules that we've talked about with contractions, singular words, plural words, and when an apostrophe should be used.